Welcome to my channel. My name is Swish. Today we continue looking at all of the roster changes in Blood Bowl Season 3 with the Chaos Chosen team. Let's jump right in and compare it to the Season 2 roster. To have better parity, what league a team plays for was separated from the special rules, so a new league was created to determine which star players can be taken on the chosen team. Favored of blank, however, did change a little bit, where previously only star players that could play for Undivided, Korn, Nurgle, Slaanesh, and Zenith could be taken on the Chaos Chosen team. It now also includes Heshut, so all of the Chaos Dwarf star players can also be included. Beastmen changed up quite a bit, actually. All of the changes added up to a 5k reduction in cost, which is more important than it first appears. In second season, the 60k price tag along with the 60k rerolls meant that you had to make a lot of sacrifices in order to make a roster fit, either by foregoing a big guy, a chosen blocker, or extra rerolls. This made Chaos teams very challenging to play early on. Now with the cheaper alignment and rerolls, you can have a fully loaded roster, which we'll take a look at a little bit later. Stat-wise, Beastmen are largely the same, although they do get a 3+ passing skill now, which I didn't highlight here on the sheet, but it's there. For skills, they gained Thick Skull, which is not a huge difference, but it's fine to have if you're paying essentially nothing for it, which in this case they're actually getting a discount. Beastmen did lose access to strength skills as a primary, but they did gain Devious as a secondary. Chosen blockers, well, they get armbar, which of all the skills in Blood Bowl, armbar is certainly one of them. It's free, and that's about the best you could say about it. Oh, they also did get Devious skills as a secondary. The big guy's also largely unchanged in this edition, though it is worth noting that the troll is the only big guy who gets access to passing as a secondary. Seeing as how there are no teammates on the Chaos team that you can throw, sans star players, and most passing skills don't seem to be affecting throw teammate anyway, I don't see this as a good reason to take the troll, although in tournament play it could be interesting to have the troll with something like leader. Another huge change is a rerolls going down to 50k, as I previously mentioned. I'll be honest, this one doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Maybe it's just a flavor failure, but it seems really strange that a team dedicated to Chaos, the word Chaos being the operative word, would have such discipline that they would get cheap rerolls. It doesn't sit right with me, but it is what it is. Okay, let's talk about the players. Your lineman choice are Beastmen. They have a reduced cost in this edition, surprisingly good stats, horns, and thick skull. They're a really good blank canvas player who could be set up to fill most roles with a couple of different skills. Horns is a tough skill to evaluate. The biggest knock on this skill is that only one player on the team can blitz per turn, so it's a wasted skill on the rest of your players. But it also gives you the freedom to add a strength 4 blitz anywhere you really need it. That gives you some additional tactical versatility. Thick Skull is one of those skills that you'd never take intentionally, but it's okay if a player comes with it or if you drew it randomly. It effectively adds a 13.89% chance of keeping the Beastman on the field if armor is broken. Losing strength access as a primary does hurt, but realistically though, you spend a lot of your early SPPs on block or mutations anyway. This does limit your ability to combine Mighty Blow with Claws. Now, before the comments come in, I do know that these two skills were fixed previously so they don't combo like they used to, and nothing has changed here. They're just two skills that both affect your ability to hurt people, and it is still good to have access to both. Beastmen can develop in a lot of ways, and since you're going to need them to fill different roles, it's good that they're open to interpretation. If you need a ball runner, you can pick up skills like extra arms, extra head, or big hand to go along with something like sure hands. A frontline fighter is going to want block, obviously, but then tackle and claws are also good to go along with it. A dedicated ball hawk might want something like wrestle, strip ball, and frenzy. I think it might still be worth randomizing mutations early to see what skills you get, and then kind of let players develop based from what you roll. Now that randomizing is pick 1 from 2, it's actually even easier to create a specialized beast early with a randomization. Chaos Chosen are still some of the best players in the game with their strength of 4, 3+ agility, and 10+ armor. Elephant in the room, armbar is not a very good skill, and it's definitely not a skill you should ever intentionally take. Of all the players though to get it as a starting skill, Chaos Chosen are the type of player that you're likely going to try and dodge away from, so I guess it's somewhat likely that it'll come into play. I just don't recommend building around it. I was surprised to find out that Chaos doesn't have the Brawling Brutes ability, which is a special ability that some teams get, typically a lot of fighty teams. This was strange to me because Chaos is traditionally thought of as one of the most violent teams. This means you're still going to be getting more star player points from touchdowns rather than casualties, so there's a great reason here to score with your Chaos Chosen rather than just exclusively relying on punches to get your development in. Their first advancement should probably still be Block. Second would be Mighty Blow, and if you're expecting heavy armor, Claws is a fine way to round out a Chaos Chosen, who I still want to call Chaos Warriors, even though the name has been changed for like almost a decade. Chaos teams also get a choice between one of 3 big guys. Each of their big guys have their own strengths. The Troll is the cheapest and is particularly tough with high armor and regeneration. The Ogre is probably the most consistent and also pretty tough with high armor and thick skull. And then there's the Minotaur, who's not as tough as the previous choices, but trades consistency for extra violence. Let me explain what I mean by most consistent. The Ogre's negative trait is Bonehead, which means he stands around and does nothing if he rolls a 1 on his action. The key here is that it's always a 1, regardless of the other circumstances. Trolls have Really Stupid, which means that it works on a 2+, but only if you have a friend to babysit him. Otherwise, it's a 4+. Minotaur's negative trait of Unchanneled Fury also works on a 2+, but only if you're declaring a block or a blitz. And there's going to be plenty of times where you don't activate the Minotaur because there's just nothing for him to hit, or you want to use the blitz somewhere else. Otherwise, just like with the Troll, it's a 4+. In a challenge of which moron is the least moron of the bunch, the Ogre is going to be the most reliable of the unreliable big guys. Even though he's 10k cheaper than the Minotaur, when you start adding the team up, the 10k doesn't affect the final cost quite so much, so I don't consider that a critical factor in which of the 2 I'd pick. For me, the choice is Troll and an extra reroll, or Ogre versus Minotaur. In the end, I think the Minotaur is still the best choice. Frenzy doubles your chances of knocking someone down or crowd surfing them. Horns lets you blitz even other big guys profitably. It's a high reward, but also lower consistency. A glass cannon if there ever was one. For development, I'd start the Troll or the Ogre off with Brawler, and then follow up with Guard, and then maybe Stand Firm. I wouldn't randomize strength skills here because there's a chance you could end up with Strong Arm or Bullseye, both of which are skills that they can technically take, but they can't use unless you're getting a stunty star player. The Minotaur I'd develop into a full-on battering ram. Juggernaut, Claws, and Break Tackle would be my go-tos. Honestly, Break Tackle might be the best here, letting a Minotaur dive into a cage with a 1+ dodge roll. Extra heads lowers the dodge chance to a 0+. That would let a Minotaur dodge into 3 tackle zones on a 2 or better, just making no cages safe. Today I've put together 2 starting rosters, though it could easily be 3 if you want to swap the Minotaur for the Ogre and build 1. It just saves you an extra 10k. In the first roster, I'd go with 6 Beastmen, 4 Chosen, the Minotaur, 2 rerolls, and 2 extra dedicated fans for a total of 990,000. Now again, if you prefer the reliability of the Ogre, it's a quick swap for the Minotaur, and it doesn't change much else, it just banks you an extra 10k. For the second roster, it's the same 6 Beastmen, 4 Chosen, but instead I take the Troll here. I would go with a 3rd reroll and drop the dedicated fans down to 2. I added this roster mostly to show that there is some value in taking the Troll, even though he's technically the worst of the 3 big guys. But I think if I was setting up for a league, I'd go with the first setup and probably the Minotaur. It's possible if I was taking Chosen to a tournament, however, and there were some tight restrictions on how much starting money I had, the Troll roster would be an option, especially if you could give the Troll Leader as the 4th reroll. Yes, I know that Beastmen can also take the Leader skill, it's just funnier to take it on the Troll. And that's my take on the Chaos Chosen team for Blood Bowl Season 3. The big changes here are the reduction in cost, and that's going to allow for a more well-rounded team, either in a league or a tournament. Normally in second season, if I had a new player and they were really heck-bent on playing Chaos as their team, I would typically warn them that they're very difficult to play just because you can't really take everything that you need. But in Season 3, I feel more comfortable recommending them to a starting player. Anyway, As always, thanks for watching. I appreciate any likes and comments you leave me. Coming up next, we're going to go over the Chaos Dwarf team. Till then, Nuffle's blessing.